All right, we're excited to have all of you here with us today as we are going to discuss how you can support the creation of a geospatial strategy in your organization. Today, we're going to hope to answer a couple of important questions. Those being, what is a geospatial strategy? Why do I need one? And how can I create one? So very simply put, a geospatial strategy defines how your organization will use GIS to achieve its goals. And an effective geospatial strategy connects your business needs with the right people, processes, and technology to help you overcome the challenges that your office faces and your organization faces, and to improve the impact of your GIS program. With this geospatial strategy, you can also use GIS to achieve location intelligence, which is the ability to understand why and where things happen, so that you can make better decisions and achieve more efficiency within your GIS program. I hope this webinar will help you all understand what a geospatial strategy is and motivate you to get started on developing one. And before handing this over to Kate for the presentation, we have a polling question. Okay, so please let us know if you have created or if you currently have a geospatial strategy. Okay. Thanks so much for your response, all your responses, and I'm going to hand this over to Kate.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Just confirming, are we seeing the title slide on your screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
Good to go.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Kate Driesnack, and I am very excited to talk to you all today about how to create a geospatial strategy. So without further ado, let's get started. In this webinar series, we will be discussing the 5 key components of GIS success. In today's webinar, we will be discussing strategy. I will cover the basics of what a geospatial strategy is and how it can help your organization. We will also dive a little bit into the components and the method that are key to developing a successful geospatial strategy. You'll be hearing that term, geospatial strategy, a ton today, but hopefully by the end of this, you will have a better understanding on how this can benefit your organization and feel better equipped to get started. So let's dive into it. What is a geospatial strategy? Firstly, I'd like to mention that a geospatial strategy is not the same as your typical 1 to 5 year strategic plan for your entire organization. A geospatial strategy is a business-oriented plan that defines how an organization will use GIS to achieve its goals and desired outcomes. So although a geospatial strategy is different from a strategic plan in its contents, it is still a plan aligned with your organization's desired goals and outcomes, just focused on how GIS can help you achieve them. An effective geospatial strategy connects your business needs with the right people, processes, technology to help overcome challenges and improve results across your organization. So you will also be hearing those terms a lot, the right people, processes, and technology. With a geospatial strategy, you can use GIS to achieve location intelligence, the ability to understand why and where things happen, so that you can make better decisions and operate more efficiently. To develop and execute your own geospatial strategy, Esri recommends using an approach that we will be covering today. You can use this business-oriented approach to identify gaps and challenges in your organization, prioritize solutions that deliver real value, give your staff new knowledge and capabilities, and improve your workflows and processes. Through this work, you will be able to clearly articulate the business value of GIS to key stakeholders and maximize the impact of your GIS investment. So let's break that down a little bit. How exactly does a geospatial strategy help me in my organization? So defining a geospatial strategy helps you with a few items. First, it can help stimulate the expansion of GIS within your organization and establish a shared data strategy and foundation. Location data is an essential part of data for most organizations, especially for tribal governments. GIS is currently used in road inventories, archaeological site management, economic development projects, analysis and visualization of health information, and everything in between. The issue is that many organizations haven't adjusted how they collect, manage, or share geospatial data. Duplicated data or analysis, disconnected data sets, and poor integration are often results when geospatial data, or GIS, isn't considered to be a strong strategic asset. So having a structured approach will ensure the expansion of GIS is done in a way to establish effective governance and achieve maximum impact for your organization. So with that said, we connect to another point here of a strategy will help you identify how to overcome business challenges and unlock new sources of value. So organizations exist to create value for customers through quality products and services, for employees through satisfying work, for society through active citizen involvement. It's all about value. Location intelligence, the product of a geospatial strategy, empowers organizations to look at value creation in a different light. They can discover new routes to value by considering where. When equipped with location intelligence, organizations can flip conventional business problems on their head by reframing them as problems of location. On to the next one here. It provides accountability. A lot of the time for organizations, especially those with many individual departments, often have many goals and items to consider. It can be difficult prioritizing those items, let alone making sure those goals don't slip through the cracks. By having a laid out plan with prioritized actions, a roadmap, and a defined future state you want to get to, it makes it much easier to track progress and celebrate successes along the way. Having a geospatial strategy also helps reinforce the need for continued investment. For both investments of time and money, this is a topic of interest to leadership. The plan helps address the big question of why should we invest in GIS? A calculated plan demonstrates the value propositions to stakeholders, the larger impact it has on the organization in alignment with the overarching strategic plan, and it has a timeline with actionable steps. So continuing on from the last slide of reinforcing the need for investment, having a defined geospatial strategy helps you appropriately allocate financial and staff resources through justifiable and documented recommendations. So continuing with that same concept that a calculated structured plan demonstrates the value propositions to stakeholders, the larger impact it has on the organization in alignment with the overarching strategic plan, and the timeline with actionable steps. So connected here also is this next point. It allows you to leverage people, processes, and technology that are already existing within your organization. Next year, having a geospatial strategy helps you deliver solutions and capabilities incrementally in a sustainable manner. We will elaborate more on this shortly. This is connected to planning. And finally, it allows you to leverage location intelligence, or the science of where, to achieve your business goals more effectively, connected to the point of unlocking new sources of value and overcoming business challenges utilizing GIS. So now that we have a better understanding of the benefits of having a geospatial strategy, let's talk a little bit more about how to develop one. In this section, I'll cover the core areas of consideration, who you should have involved to develop a successful strategy, and a breakdown of the framework. So, key considerations you want to keep in mind. Also, notice that they overlap on purpose because these things are all interconnected. So this first circle here, and probably the most important, your organization's business needs and challenges. This is the what we are trying to address and achieve with this strategy. The second circle, patterns of use and information products. This is the how. How are you currently operating? What are you using in key workflows now? What are some key business products? Connected to the first circle, thinking about what are some patterns here that we are seeing the same challenges be repeated. And the third circle, technology, thinking about how you are currently operating, understand what are the key technology products being used in workflows. Are there new opportunities here for solutions? What do we need to do technologically to overcome challenges and make our goals achievable? So to develop a successful geospatial strategy, you need to get the right people involved. Since this strategy requires a business-first approach, these key stakeholders should represent different aspects of your business, not just the tech savvy or GIS experts. Your stakeholders' priorities, organizational knowledge, and desire to improve the business will lead to a more valuable strategy that can get a broader buy-in throughout your organization. The people involved in developing a strategy need to fulfill three key roles: champion, executive sponsor, and technical leadership. By filling these roles, you can significantly increase the adoption and success of your geospatial strategy. So, what do these titles mean? First, a champion is a person who is an advocate for GIS and uses it to improve the way an organization works, often by making operations more efficient and more effective. Your champion should be someone who sees the opportunity to overcome business challenges and meet the organization's goals by better leveraging its people, processes, and technology. With input from others in the organization, the champion helps define a vision for how the organization can apply GIS to operate more effectively. An executive sponsor is someone with authority, often within leadership, who believes the vision is aligned with the organization's goals. Your executive sponsors should be able to get the right people engaged in developing and executing your strategy and to assign staff and financial resources to bring the vision to reality. Technical leadership includes the leaders who will need to support and maintain future state capabilities. Your technical leadership should participate in the development of your strategy to validate that the proposed capabilities are in line with your organization's technology plan. Your technical leadership can also advise you on how they can help implement, administer, and deliver new capabilities. So once you have a team that represents those three key roles, you can begin to work on your geospatial strategy. Developing and executing the strategy involves 4 distinct phases: understand, plan, act, and revisit. So let's dive in to understand what's included in each of these phases. First, we will focus on the understand phase. In the understand phase, you will define a shared understanding of your organization's goals, success criteria, and current challenges. This allows you to justify and develop a plan to overcome these challenges. The understand phase begins by learning about the business needs of your organization. You accomplish this by having conversations with department and functional area executives, key business unit directors, and GIS users and managers. Throughout these conversations, you should build a consensus around your organization's goals, define how success will be measured, also how you will know you have met your goals, and identify the challenges that are currently preventing you from achieving your goals. The conversations in the understand phase are framed from a business perspective, not a technical or GIS perspective. You should not begin discussing possible solutions until the organization's challenges are firmly understood. Now, in the plan phase, you define a clear roadmap that the organization can follow to reach its short and long-term goals. The plan phase focuses on defining the future state, comparing it to the current state, and identifying the technology, processes, and people needed to establish sustainable solutions that are aligned with the business challenges. Once you have your desired state identified, you have to know what steps you need to get there. We like to call these steps activities. These activities can include many things, such as supporting foundational infrastructure, developing information products, defining governance plans, restructuring teams, whatever is needed to achieve the future state, and those are populated into a roadmap. Let's focus on the roadmap section of planning, identifying what needs to happen in order to get to the desired future state from the current state by completing these activities. These activities need to be time-bound and prioritized. So if we think of the roadmap as a burger, the current state is the bottom bun and the future state is the top bun. Now, how do we get the contents of this burger in there, and in what order do they need to be put in so that you have an awesome burger? Think of the meat and toppings as activities. What order do they need to happen in order to reach your desired future state? So let's focus on that meat, or the contents of our roadmap. How do we get from point A to point B? You determine the key needs, the set of activities that will help you achieve that future state that are aligned with the business challenges. Think of how they connect to technology, processes, and people. So, for example, for technology-based activities like activity E and F, those would be upgrading software or hardware, system architecture, things like that, where there's a heavy focus on technology, but that can also affect people and the processes. For some of the activities that would fall in the process category, like C and D, those would be improving workflows, kind of establishing governance for sharing, accessing, and publishing data. And you can see that obviously affects what technology you need, as well as the effect on people and how they work day to day. For the activities in the people section, this would be activities A and B. And so that would be focused on like training, how to make sure that your workforce adapts to change, kind of what else they need, making sure that you are really taking into account how any of these changes would really affect your workforce and their ability to function more effectively. So obviously, a lot of your activities will overlap. It's not normally just one is focused solely on technology, like you're doing it for a purpose. So the idea here I want to show you is just that a lot of these have a larger impact on your organization. So when you're considering what to do, you really want to make sure to take into account how this will affect the people, processes, and technology that you need. So once you've identified the different activities you need to achieve your future state, you will consult with those key stakeholders, the champion, executive sponsor, and technical leadership, and determine the priority of your activities. This will help you determine which ones you need to do or should do first. Also, what should go in your burger first. So here's a gridded example with the axes of business value on the left. So this is ranging from lower to higher value. And then on the bottom, there's the ease to launch. So that is ranging from harder to easier. So ideally, you would want to focus on the high value activities first. That would be activities A and E, and then B and D. You can kind of see that that is where it would have the most impact. So for the for the two activities there that have the highest value, they're also harder to launch. So those ones you would take into account, okay, how do we make sure that we have everything we need in order to be successful in those activities? They may take a little bit longer to achieve, so you may have to space them out. You may want to address activity A first and then do some quick wins that are highlighted on that top right box to help get things going in the meantime, and then kind of circle back with activity E. So that's just an example of an exercise that you can do to make sure that you're prioritizing these needs, and then you can collectively decide in what order you need to complete these. So after the activities are prioritized and sequenced, they can be put into a roadmap. So we now have our completed roadmap burger. After we did our prioritization, we made sure that we identified which ones we needed to do first. So in this case, we did the same thing of like starting with a quick win and then kind of had some of the harder to launch activities embedded in here too. And this would help us successfully reach our desired future state. So something to note here is that the timeline is flexible. It is up to the stakeholders to determine what the timeline is, whether it be quarterly, monthly, yearly, or whatever increment is needed to complete the activities in order to get to your future state. So now that we have a plan, we will move on to our act phase. In the act phase, you launch a series of implementation cycles for each of your activities based on your roadmap. The point of these cycles are to continuously deliver value and improvement so that you can easily measure your progress and the impact GIS is having on your business. Each cycle follows 4 distinct steps: prepare, implement, operate, and review. So like the understand and plan phases, the act phase also heavily focuses on people, processes, and technology. Except now you are actively aligning them to overcome challenges and make improvements. So the outcome of each of these cycles ideally is an implemented solution or a new capability. So let's break this down. For the prepare phase, that would be defining the solution in detail. You would kind of move from a conceptual thought or design to functional and prepare end users for upcoming changes. So this is really planning, making sure that you have everything in line in order to move forward with this activity. Then you would move to the implement phase. So this would be building and configuring your solution, testing and deploying your solution, and training your users. So this is really embedding it into your organization, making sure that everything is set up, people are prepared, and you can kind of get started with this new workflow or implementing this new solution. And then for the operate phase, you would execute your new solution in a production environment. You would monitor performance and the use of the solution, and you would provide ongoing support for your users. So in this phase, it's a lot of like training, making sure things are going smoothly. If there's any issues, then now would be the time to resolve it and really give it a chance to kind of have an impact on people, and where you can monitor that performance and that use of it. Then for the review phase, you would share the success of your activity, ensure the solution is being utilized, considered ongoing workforce development needs. So In this phase, it's really important to meet with all of the stakeholders involved, especially all of the end users, whoever is using the solution. Kind of make sure that they're being heard. If the solution is working for them, if it's not, if it's helped them be much more effective, saving them a ton of time, or if there are still some things that need to happen in order for this to be more effective. So whether it's more training, things like that. So then you would, if you needed to, you would cycle through again, like preparing, implementation, and operation. So just it's kind of like revisiting the cycle until you feel that the one activity or one deployed solution is really achieving its maximum impact on your organization and really addressing that business challenge or need um, that made so this was possible in the first place. So you would do this act phase for each one of your identified activities. So on that roadmap, going through each one of these activities with all these 4 phases, revisiting, doing whatever you need on one before you move on to the other. Sometimes with the quick wins, you can do those at the same time as you're kind of working on one of the big initiatives. If you can kind of do something on the side, that can be effective. But ultimately, you just want to make sure that you're executing incrementally and sustainably. So you can do whatever you need to do in order to get to your desired future state. So that was the act phase. Now in the revisit phase, you review and update your strategy, whether that be yearly or whenever you need to account for changes in leadership priorities, business goals, and technology. So Esri encourages reevaluating your strategy continually, every time you complete the act phase, to ensure that your strategy keeps delivering value to your organization. So once you've completed everything in that roadmap and you've got to your defined future state, then that's when you would go in and visit the strategy again and determine, okay, what else can we do to reach our next phase? What do we want to look like next? We got to this first point B, but let's start over again. Our future state is now where we're starting. Where do we want to keep moving forward to? So this really ensures that you are helping deliver value to your organization and you're achieving its GIS's maximum impact. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information to digest, and we'll have time for some questions in the chat, but first I just want to review a quick summary of what we just covered. So the 4 phases to develop and execute a geospatial strategy are understand, plan, act, and revisit. So in the understand phase, you include the right stakeholders and articulate your organization's vision, goals, objectives, and challenges. In the plan phase, you define ways GIS can be used to address those business needs and prioritize those needs. In the act phase, you plan your activities, implement them, operate, and review if they're meeting your expectations. Then once you complete all of your activities needed to reach point B, then you revisit your strategy and you do this all over again. So now you are all probably wondering, how do I compile all of that information into a geospatial strategy? What would that even look like? Well, now I will show you an example of a simple geospatial strategy one-pager, or what we like to call a canvas. So this is just one quick example of what this could look like. It's a one-page document that encompasses a geospatial strategy in an easy to comprehend and digestible format. So this is what I mean of like it's different than your organization's strategic plan that can be up to like 50, sometimes 100 pages. This is really just kind of highlighting those key objectives that we just talked about, the organization's business goals and mission, that vision of that future state, the value that the future state delivers to the stakeholders. And then the strategy section in the middle here, it highlights the components of technology, processes, and people, and the goals that are to be achieved. Then at the bottom, that's where you would put your roadmap along with all, or the roadmap with all the meat of the activities along the way with a defined timeline to make it happen. So if we break it down, then like your mission and vision here would be to like develop a state-of-the-art data analytics program, something like that, whatever you define for your organization. And then you would write down all of the goals, so how you define success. And then the value proposition. This is the section that highlights the value delivered to stakeholders. And something to keep in mind when you're developing your geospatial strategy, you want to keep it as easy to digest as possible. Like I mentioned, you don't want to only have the tech savvy or GIS experts involved. You want anyone to look at this strategy and understand, what are we trying to do? What value does this bring to me? And then what steps are we taking along the way? So that is something that's really useful about just having this really easy canvas that's developed in like PowerPoint or whatever format you want to do it. Some people create different diagrams, but it just has a couple of these key components here, and you can lay out everything you needed, all of your objectives, what you want to accomplish. And then yeah, the implementation roadmap is absolutely key to a successful geospatial strategy. That's your plan of action. How are you going to get to this vision? How are you going to hit all of these goals? Well, we're going to do that by establishing a foundation. So this is where you would have a lot of activities, making sure that you stand up the technology and hardware, software, things that you need in order to actually get started on your vision. And then transforming is like really sitting down and understanding your like the various staff and department needs. If they want to like have a field map app where they have been doing this workflow on paper for forever, so then you have to sit down and evaluate, okay, well, how do we get them on an app? How do we make sure that we're addressing all of the key information fields that they need? Okay, then what would that look like for data sharing and publishing and collaboration? How will that help foster that department's mission? Kind of taking in all of those components, getting started, making sure people have proper training, following that that prepare, implement, operate, and review phase for each of these activities or trainings here. And then as you reach the end, you can reevaluate. You can understand, okay, let's understand if this is hitting all of their needs. Is there any way we can improve any of the existing solutions? Things like that. So there's a lot of different things you can consider here, but ultimately you just want the roadmap to define everything you need in order to make these goals, the rest of the content on this canvas, a reality. So I know that was a lot, but also in the upcoming webinars, Adam Carnell will be presenting in more detail on the rest of the components here of GIS success. So please make sure to sign up for those future sessions if you're interested in learning more. But right now we will actually pull up another poll onto the screen. So do you feel better equipped to create a geospatial strategy in your organization? And please note that you can select multiple options here. So we will give everyone a minute to answer. Great. Thank you everyone for responding. And thank you everyone for attending and listening.
Well, thanks, Kate. That was great. And I know that before I go into these announcements, just real quick, I know a lot of you, your GIS programs are growing. You're reaching out and sort of supporting lots of different departments like transportation and disaster response, law enforcement, etc. And so, yeah, I just really want to stress the need for a strategy. I know many of you wear many hats. A lot of times, I know that GIS people they've got more than one job, and it's hard to kind of slow down and try to make an effort to put a strategy together. But you can always start really small and then build on it. And we're always around and happy to help. I think I really like the whole strategy canvas because it really sort of boils down the strategy and makes it feel like it's more attainable than some big large document that maybe is hard to read through. And you know, producing a big strategy is definitely useful, and then also having that canvas to help you stay on track is a really great way to go. So thanks again, Kate. Really appreciate everything you taught us today. I also wanted to make sure everybody knew that we had announced the Story Map Challenge winners. And for this year, the 2021 Story Map Challenge, the Navajo Nation tribal government for their story on the Navajo Safe Water, and then also the Snoqualmie tribe on their reciprocity and restoration, and the Keweenaw Bay Indian community for their story on brownfields and the tribal response program. You can go to this link, which is live. You can also search in Google on just Esri story, Tribal Story Map Challenge, and it usually comes up there as well. But thanks again for any and all of you that submitted story maps. We really had a great sort of broad expanse of submissions that were awesome story maps. It was hard to pick these out. So thanks for participating if you did. And some of the upcoming events that are happening, October, we've got the Imagery Summit, and we also have our Infrastructure Management and GIS Conference, and in November, Ocean Weather and Climate Forum. And then we will also be attending TribalNet in November as well. We'll be sending you these links in a follow-up email. We will have some future webinars. Kate mentioned this in the coming weeks. From Adam Carnow, I think many of you probably have heard of him before. If not, please join us. He is a great he's a great presenter and gets the value of GIS at a different level. Like we all like to keep our hands on the technology, and it is hard to keep up with the technology. Adam is great around communicating the value of GIS and talking to managers and leaders within our organizations about the value of GIS and the GIS program, all of which are really important to sustain any kind of GIS program and to continue to grow it. I think that's it. So thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate you spending some time with us today, and we hope you'll join us for our upcoming webinars in September. Thanks again. Bye-bye.